Well, Happy New Year, everybody, and welcome to our rally point. And today, we're really honored and excited to have Jacki Carr with us. And you're going to learn a lot about life, goal setting, and making something happen. And no better time to have you here with us than when everyone is thinking about New Year's resolutions or making them, but we want to fulfill them. So welcome. And Jacki, introduce yourself, please, to the audience and tell them who you are and what's important.
I will. I'm Jacki Carr. Nice to meet everyone virtually, digitally. It's an honor to be sitting here with you. I am a goal coach, a speaker, and a writer. I'm certified in a body of work called Light Your Leadership. It's all about personal responsibility, leadership, goals, and project management, because all goals are projects. It's an honor to be able to share tools, practices, and a conversation that will hopefully support us into the future.
Well, how did you get into coaching, teaching, and helping people with goals or with their life?
So almost 15 years ago, I worked at a store called Lululemon, and a woman walked in the door, and I am not even joking that her title was Director of Possibility, her job title. And I said, "What is that?" And she led people through vision and goals workshops, the language of possibility. And I know, isn't that gorgeous? Yeah. And I said, I want that title. And she had a certification course. She is the founder of Light Your Leadership. I eventually did both her courses she led, and I was on faculty. You know, I come from a sports background. I grew up with parents who were goal setters, and I loved setting goals all through my life, but that language, Director of Possibility, it jolts you. You probably have moments in your life where you've caught yourself, oh, this is it, that jolt. And so that was a big moment for me. And I would say I am now a Director of Possibility also.
What's the difference between an obstacle in goal setting and a possibility in goal setting?
Well, I'd say one is a wall and one is a bridge. If you want it really simple.
Yeah. And so it's how a person looks at what's in front of them and where they want to go starts the journey for the goals that they're going to set. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. And you can climb a wall. I just find the bridge to be somewhat easier.
Oh, I like that too. Do you have a card with this 6 easy steps towards changing your life and goal setting? Or if we were just meeting, what would be the first step in that journey?
Okay, so 6 easy steps. I'm just going to say, no way. Yeah. This is going to be a unique journey for every single one of us. If I met you and you were like, what would be the first thing we discussed with goals? I'd be like, okay, I believe in values and vision as gateways into goal setting. And that would be my first question. I think it's a great right past surface level conversations into the deep and meaningful conversations is, what are your values?
Define for the audience what you mean by value.
Okay, and what I mean by values is core values. So we can value a lot of things, but I love the conversation of core values, like at your core, the center of your being, the willpower, right? This is who I am, right? Speaking of that jolt, it like aligns your spine. And values, for a lot of people, I would say, take a moment to see what this word means to you before I define it for you. Language is going to create our reality. So I always ask people, what's the word mean first? So we have agency, so we have autonomy and authority in the words we're speaking out loud. So for me, values are my inner compass. And so, you know, a way that I create direction, choice, and inner knowing for decision making.
Vision can be a daunting word to some folks. Yeah. Break it down that it's easy for them to know they already have a vision, or they have somewhere they may want to go. But how would you tell everyone, hey, let's articulate your vision?
Yeah. To put values in a bow, like that's kind of like creating your footing, right? Your groundedness. And then moving to vision is almost creating, like, I would say, even in the north of the compass, where we're going. And so a vision is a snapshot in the future. You know, visions are a place where we can ask, what do I want? And what would I like to stay the same? What would I like to change? I think a lot of us think vision and a new year is all about change, but sometimes it's nice to ask, what would I also like to stay the same? What's going well? What can we celebrate? And so visions allow us to remove constraints of the now. This is the best part of visioning. When you're like, oh, I can't do that. I don't have time, money, experience, the person, the friendship, the community, whatever it may be. In the future, what if you could say, if I did have X, what would I dream? What would I imagine? What would I see? And you can almost go try it on. And visioning allows us to ask, what's possible? And it's not a one and done. You can have more than one vision. You can have different pathways to go.
Yeah. So if you can see it, then you can be it. So often I tell folks, hey, let's just go to 2026 and then look in the rearview mirror to see how we could have gotten there.
Yes.
And that can guide the organization, or that can guide the family,
Yes.
or the person on staying really on azimuth.
One thing to note, some of us won't be able to go that far out. It'll feel challenging.
Oh.
So you can vision tomorrow morning. You can vision what it would feel like if I got up 5 minutes earlier. This is like my game with myself because I really want to be a morning person one day.
Mm-hmm.
What if I got up 5 minutes earlier? What if I started my morning with sun on my eyes or a walk, right? These are questions of change. So you can even vision removing constraints of like the 24 hours and go into what could next week look like. Some people will need something closer because far away might feel somewhat daunting. And guess what? There's no wrong way to vision.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What kind of tools or techniques do you teach? Do you put in your calendar an alarm 5 minutes earlier than yesterday, or do you, and it beeps to you, or during the day, do you put affirmations to remind someone where they're going?
Yeah, I would say all of those and not one alarm. It's 5 for me. It's like, you should get up now. Okay, what about now? Like I put funny quotes for myself in there because you can label your alarms. And I will say I'm a Post-it note junkie. They're everywhere. And I believe affirmations, I'm so glad you brought this up. And I think sometimes we can get caught in either our own language of what we don't want, what other people are sharing, or a lot of sadness, say on the news or your social media scroll. Affirmations are a place where you can actually recalibrate your thoughts, you can set your mind free from other people's experiences in that moment. So you can come back to like, wait, what promises did I make to myself? What do I believe now? Whether it's about hope or health or enoughness. Some of my Post-its say like, you are enough now. Another Post-it is, you could have a Post-it that says, see it and be it. And so you might find those languages that support you. And our brain loves to have information to then go seek out. Give ourselves something positive, something fruitful, something hopeful to then go research, to then go be open to. Or else I'll stay.
It's sort of more than a task also. For instance, it isn't lose weight, but there has to be emotive language so that seeing the affirmation brings you something emotionally good as well.
Well, I think you bring up such a great point. So for example, a lot of people might have the lose weight resolution in January. What's the why? Why? Where's the emotion? And if it doesn't have that, are you able to commit, is my question. Because when something feels like a to-do without the connection to my values, perhaps a clear vision, perhaps a clarity of like, I want to be healthy for grandchildren. I want to be healthy for my children. Like, will it have staying power? And so an affirmation, by the way, you can have like shadow affirmations, anti-affirmations on repeat. I have storylines that aren't very nice. So the Post-it notes are great space for me to make a choice, reframe, and then add emotion so it hits versus something that just sounds nice in the moment.
as we set goals or New Year's resolutions, who do you share them with, and describe your view of, being wide open, put it on Twitter, Facebook, and tell everyone this is my goal, or what?
So let's define the word goal first, because I think for a lot of people, it's like, oh, what are we talking about? As a reminder, like, let's find what these words mean to us. So wait, what is a goal to you? Before we talk about who we should share them with, what's the word goal mean to you?
To me, it's well, it has to be precise. So simple, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-phased.
You're like a SMART goal.
A SMART goal, and it has to be with purpose. It's something that I'll break down into tasks and calendar events and all, but it's out there and it's fuzzy enough that I have to reach for it, but it's measurable, precise enough that I have to do some things to get there.
Yeah. Okay, ready for mine?
Yes.
Okay. A goal is an outcome or desire with a date attached to commit to. Okay, here's my part that I added. Of the person I want to be, the person I am becoming.
Okay.
So when you say out of reach, I feel the same way. And a goal sometimes is the person I'm not yet, or I do it in an hour. And so whether it's train for a half marathon, because I know I could not do that today, not even close. And so it's calling on that vision. It's calling on the values. What matters to me? What do I hope for the world, for myself, for my children, for my community? And how do my goals create that desire and outcome that create a guide, like you said, to then create a calendar too. And I love that, because then my goals get to be imperfect, curious, a place I can imagine what would be the best pathway, but also be open to 4 other pathways and get myself to that destination. Now, to answer your question, because we've done our defining, who do we share our goals with? Great question. If you're someone that loves accountability in social media, I think it's a great place. Like, I have tweeted once, I will run today. And because I tweeted it, I ran. I was like, what if someone asks me?
Did you run?
Right? And I did. And so it's almost this pressure of like, I put it out there, or someone like hearted it. I'm like, oh shoot, now I have to go. I have to get up from this computer and go. And one thing that I have noticed as well, though, is usually we have a set of people. I know you are the ultimate encourager. Get an encourager in your life. And you have probably a list of at least 3 to 5 people that you share your goals with, and they're like, yes, what do you need from me? We also have people, though, that might always play the devil's advocate, or might be those know-it-alls that are like, you can't do that, that's crazy. Or they know too much. This has been done before. Let me show you why it won't work. Sometimes our goals in the beginning and the middle and the end are vulnerable, are fragile, because it's something we've never done before. And so it can easily tip to, never mind, well, they said I can't, and we choose to believe them through their value system, through their beliefs, experiences, storyline. And so I think it's really important to have boundaries in your goal share, especially with the ones that feel, they feel emotional and they feel scary. Get your goal people set. And when you have yourself and your people aligned, then you can go to the devil's advocate.
So what I say, I happen to have my prop here.
Oh, a prop. I'm going to have to get this somewhere.
So KLE is key leader engagement. And in Iraq, we would meet with the key leaders to encourage them to do the right thing for their people or for the country. And when they would be slow to act, I would tell my team, just reject their rejection, because you know where you're going. And the fact that it's a little bit harder is just a fact, like a training, and you have to do a foot march with a rucksack. Training, no, do your foot march. But there are those people that you describe, that I describe as the yes but people. Yes, but
Yeah.
you tried that last year. Yes, but sir, we tried that a year ago as the museum, and it was lukewarm accepted. Okay, well let's move it a little bit and let's try again.
Yeah.
And I think that's the breakthrough. You know that they're going to be bridge burners, and arm yourself with that and say, I really appreciate your feedback on that. Thanks, and then step away and go after your goal anyways,
Yeah.
rather than try to convince them that you're right. You're right when you're setting that goal.
And this is where I think values and vision are really important too, though. If you're setting goals in a reactive space, or perhaps you don't have a strong footing, it will be easy to push your goals or your belief in self right over. If you know why this matters to you at your core values center, because you've seen it in your mind or you can feel that this is important, it does create some support from self, and then of course from those encouraging goal people. And so this is why I think we have ways into goal setting. Like y'all could write 5 goals right now and then explore, wow, why'd I write that down? We have a workbook that we're going to send, and the first chapter is values, and there's a word bank. And you're like, oh, I wrote that because I love being of service. Oh, I wrote that because compassion is number 1 for me. And then you're like, wow, this makes sense. Like sometimes I've written goals and then I've spider-legged which values it connects to.
Very good. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I
So
like
it
that.
gives it purpose, because all of us, like I know you and I might have some values that are the same. I know you and I both have the family value, and we have some that are different. And so the way you're going to goal and the way you're going to put it in your calendar might look different than mine. And so when someone's like, I don't think that's going to work, but that's because that's their goal. That's their belief.
When you walk or run, how do you integrate goals, or how do you bring eustress rather than distress into the work?
So I always I live in Colorado, and so I always would take my goals on a hike. And I was hiking last weekend, and there was quite a resistance grade. There was about 1,000 feet of elevation in this hike. And so I'm breathing heavy, harder to talk to someone. This is where I like to quiet my mind in resistance. I'm like, where does my mind go? And I get pretty hard on myself rather quickly. I'm thinking, oh, I shouldn't be breathing so heavy. I should be going faster. Like I'm very hard on myself, which I work on very much. And then I'm like, oh, okay. Look at me out here though. I'm doing it. I'm putting one step in front of the other. And every step that I take, I'm closer, because I know there's got to be a downhill. That's the beauty of an uphill.
If you go up, yeah.
Yeah. And so the ability to recognize that goal setting is actually like hiking. You're going to set the goal at the trailhead of your trail, and there's a loop, and there's a circle, or there's a summit, and there's going to be resistance, and there's going to be downhill. Sometimes I've slipped and fall. Done it. Am I going to get back up again? When I ran into lightning, turned around, I'll have to do this goal another day because it's not safe right now. And so I take that goal with me, and it's almost like the walk, the run, the hike reflects how to live a goal.
That's really great. This whole idea of connection and relationships really matters. And for our audience, often a veteran leaves military service, and it really feels like they've jumped out of an airplane with no parachute.
Right.
And so as they're free falling and re-establishing their identity. I used to be a squad leader. I used to have 9 men and women that I cared for. I had a mission. I had gear we had to keep up with. And now, what do I do? And so getting connected is really important, especially this time of year. For many, it's a new start, and or for everyone, it's a new start of the year. And for many, that's daunting. And again, feeling like you're isolated, but you're not. And so connect with someone, and then take on the world together and establish how you're going to do that, and do that by way of articulating and saying out loud the goal on how we're going to change the world, right?
Yeah.
So what about failure? Do you see failure in terms of that's a 9, that's a 6, that's a 3, and that's a 1? Like, yeah, that's didn't work, but
I'm so glad you bring this up because fear and failure come up the most when I'm talking about goals.
excellent. Yeah.
So it's like the F word, the big bad F word.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we talk about failure, this is so awesome. We don't want to collapse our identity when we have failed. So for example, you fail I fail getting up early, often. Do I then say, I am a failure? No. That one time on a Tuesday, I failed. What can I learn? This was monumental for me, where everything after I am creates. Am I aware of the language I'm using? No longer needing to identify with failure allows me to say, okay, when failure happens, can I reject the rejection that has come in our society with the language of failure? Remember getting an F on your paper in school, like the grading system. This allows us to actually befriend failure as a part of the human experience. If I didn't fail things in school, if I didn't fail relationships, I wouldn't be where I am today, knowing what matters to me, knowing who's, going to be a great partnership for me in the future, because of the failures along the way that I got to learn from and say, oh, this person wasn't a great match for me. That job wasn't a great match for me. And this is where I get to change course, pivot, allow something different, a new possibility. And so I really believe that if we're scared of failure, it's not a bad thing. By the way, speaking of fear, it's not a bad thing, but it's actually allowing us to say the fear might be seated in, I've never done this before. And the fear, it's such a close emotion to excitement, so it's tricky, but how brave.
Why is the word hope smaller than the word hopeless?
Is this a puzzle?
Yes, of
Okay.
course. Well, it isn't hopelessness and it isn't that something that is a big rock to move as we go forward to really establish and believe in hope?
Yes, especially with the news and what I shared earlier, how so many other people's storylines and thoughts can enter our day at our fingertips now. Why is hopelessness bigger of a word than hope? Okay, tell me the answer. I'm ready.
Oh, I think when a person wakes up in the morning, they think about their gotta do's, have to do's. They look at their calendar for the must do's, and they miss the get to do's. And or while journeying through the day, if they're not looking for opportunity because they're kind of in that kung fu defensive stance, or rehearsing their thoughts for the next meeting, that there's a lot to miss.
We can get in a loop, like you said, with the to-dos, and we can also get in a loop of what we don't want.
Mm-hmm.
Listen today. People are very comfortable sharing what they don't want because it's a place of control. It's certain.
Yeah.
But sharing what you do want is sometimes a place of uncertainty, vulnerability, emotions. And so sometimes we don't go there, or we forget to change the station from don't want to do want.
Mm-hmm.
And hope is what allows us to find people, spaces, places where I feel hope here.
When you deal with or teach and assist folks to set interpersonal goals for interpersonal relationships, how does the frustration word come, and how does it get overcome?
So one thing that's really cool about frustration is to know how it feels, like in your physical body.
Mm-hmm.
Have a restoration system in place that you can lean back on when frustration hits and say out loud, I need a minute. I'm frustrated. I'm going to take a lap. I'll be back. Or for me, I just want to be human with y'all. Usually I can't catch it before. So if I'm frustrated and I say something I don't mean, or my goals go sideways, or I go sideways, sometimes I'll tell my children, my partner, my friends, my family, I need to take 2. I was frustrated. I apologize. I own, this is personal leadership. I own my experience. I need to take 2. Can we try again? And my husband and I started this years ago, where if I came in frustrated from work and I said something snarky or heated, we'd be like, do you need to take two? And we would literally walk back out the door and knock and come back in again. There's something about the threshold that works.
Yeah, great.
But you almost have to be like in the communication. Ooh, I failed that personal experience. Let me have a take two. We get to. With requests, ownership, vulnerability, and knowing, oh, that's actually not how I wanted to show up.
A lot of people will interpret goal setting as change. And it's often said that no one likes change but a baby with a wet diaper, right? but what about goal setting for growth? Give us your thoughts on if that first step towards growth, that first step towards change, how internally and emotionally it might be different. So I like the idea of growth because it's so positive. But what are your thoughts on that?
It's definitely one of my values. So you're speaking to the right person.
Okay.
But it's not everyone's. Like I have a friend that wouldn't necessarily set goals to grow. He would set goals to feel. He would set goals for contentedness, would be language. For me, though, I love expansion. I love growth. And I was about to say I like change, but I think it's hard and challenging, and change can be also riddled with grief or sadness and celebration, just depending on life that's happening. Some of us might feel like, I don't need to grow right now. I'm good. I need a minute to breathe. That's growth. That's growth. When we recognize and are aware intentionally of ourselves, that's me growing.
So you deal with men and women, and in your coaching and helping and assisting. Is there a difference in how they set goals, or?
Yeah.
But what have you found?
So my gut answer right now is yes. And let me tell you why. Well, actually, I did some research. I knew he was going to ask me this question, and I was like, I'm going to do some research. And I read in most articles that, one, women are more emotional with their goal setting. And because men aren't, they're more apt to share their goals publicly, where women won't. And I was like, let me think about this. And I was thinking about like society, social structures, social norms that exist. And I do believe our structure doesn't necessarily, well, it hasn't. I think it's getting better, but it hasn't been a great space for emotion. And so when we live in a structure that's like, oh, women get to be more emotional, in a structure that's like, sometimes that's good, sometimes not, and men can't be, I think it does then play into how we set goals, how we share goals. But again, I think we can disrupt that. Like we know goals are emotional. And if they don't elicit an emotion, I'm curious if it matters to you.
As we have a couple more minutes, so what to the audience, what is your call to action, or what is your encouragement for 2023?
Let's talk about it. So in your workbook we've created, so it'll be right beneath the video, is going to be a beautiful step-by-step of values, chapter 1. For my people that maybe don't feel comfortable visioning with their eyes closed and going to see 2026, journal prompts, try writing it. So those will be in there. So you can try different ways into these tools. That's what these are. Tools to explore and try on throughout the year.
So with that, everyone, have a great year. Fear not, frustrate not, fail not. If you do, get back up. And when you're frantic, take a deep breath and let it out. We've got great activities coming in the month of January. Go to nationalvmm.org. And as always, a shameless plug is we don't get any federal or state money. So join as a member and learn more about us by the information that we push out to you. And if you can, come here. If not, go to the website and have a virtual tour. God bless you all, and thank you.